What is up, everyone? That track was so cool. Once again, extra points if you can guess what it is. But welcome back to another episode of the Gaming Academy. It's absolutely freezing here at the Academy, but we're keeping things hot with tonight's lineup. We got Nick, aka Tragically Elite, back with the latest gaming news. The tech segment here returns again, where we're breaking down the gauntlets this time for Dynasty Warriors Origins, and of course, another round of crazy retro gaming ads for Yo Check This Out. So get ready, grab your blankets, cozy up, and let's warm things up with some gaming knowledge and good vibes, because it's time to start the show. As you know, if you are new to this channel, we stream here every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I am here with some friends of the faculty. So if you want to join, just know that I'm never alone, and you also are never alone. So with that said, let's get the people in here. Class started. I'm just gonna go right into it. What's up, Nick?
You're not alone.
There you go. So you're not alone. Throw in a little bit of Zelda in there, but I was like, whatever,
whatever. Yeah, it is a cold night. Thanks for having me back, trying to warm up just by speaking way too much. I had a sweatshirt on. Heat's working right now, so I didn't have to keep it on, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, it's funny. I almost wore the same shirt tonight. So
yeah, I wondered if you were. I had to throw on something, and it was just like, let's throw on that shirt real quick.
Yeah, I was hoping I can find like a retro. I want an old school Nintendo like logo sweater, but that'd be kind of fun.
Like the racetrack oval.
Yeah, like the older the better. Like if it was all in kanji, whatever it was even great. Like when they were selling cards. So
yeah, I mean you can still get some they're obviously reprints, but the Nintendo store, like the actual store, their own store. Buddy of mine used to work there and got me one of the like racetrack ones that said Nintendo Redmond, and it was that like kanji style. It was really cool.
Yeah, and I heard that one of the things I want to get off the list is being able to go to the Nintendo Museum, but I hear you have to get a raffle to even actually get a chance to get a ticket. So
yeah.
Now here's the one thing I don't take a chance with. It's the guy who teaches the tech on the show, aka the Blazing, the Ace, the Nelson. Where we at? Let me put you in here.
It's cold.
Yeah, it's cold.
It's raining sideways.
Man, there, Ace. It's cold.
Yeah, it's logged off.
That was it. Blink. I was like, here, blink.
Nah, today's I skipped like the weapon that I'm going to be doing for the tech this week. I skipped it last week because I was like, let me save that for a little bit, because I wanted to make sure I actually finished the game. I finally hit credits on Dynasty Warriors Origins.
Hey,
nice,
beautiful.
Check that off the list.
Nice experience, great stuff. But yeah, now that I've actually gone back in and the post game has started working with these weapons again, it's gonna get interesting.
Yeah, so that's actually a great thing to consider if you guys are watching out there and you guys have playing Dynasty Wars or have been playing Dynasty Wars historically. How do you guys feel about replay value on these games? Like for me, I always felt like once I did everything, the only thing left for me to do was to level up everyone. Now, back in the day, I hate saying this, back in the day, I remember going back to the whole game because you had to find everyone's secret weapon, the secret fourth weapon. And so I was kind of thinking like we've kind of lost that charm and that mystique of like being able to find these hidden gems inside the game, because now they're just locked through the ease of DLC and monetization, right? And the reason why I started thinking about this is because, and maybe I missed it on here on the syllabus, but MK1 did the whole thing with Floyd. Did you guys know that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, that's like so cool that the fact that they hid that stuff in there and you had to do these checklists of things to unlock the fight with Floyd. That's like legacy MK Easter eggs, And I just feel like a lot of the games now like have lost that that sense of like adventure and mystique when you're trying to find that secret level. Maybe because of the invention of social media or in YouTube, but I just don't have that. I don't feel that vibe anymore.
Yeah, we've had that conversation or similar conversations before, kind of lamenting the loss of like cheat codes. Remember cheat codes, having to find those out? You would have to find like hidden texts of someone who like left a little like notepad behind a game he bought in a store, to someone who went through and like wrote down the infinite ammo like button combination. Like that's how we had to do it back.
You find a little slip of paper or like if one of your friends hands you a little slip of paper with like Raiden and Johnny Cage and Liu Kang's fatalities on it, it's like you were holding some fucking sacred texts.
Yeah, shout out to Smoke and Scorpio and chat as well. Like, hide things behind waterfalls again. I need that T-shirt.
Yes,
like we miss that. It's one of the things. Like, I'll go up to a waterfall in the game,
miss
and
wall
just a rock face.
Like that cracked wall that looks like in Zelda, right? Like you have to throw a bomb on there,
right?
It's not like Duke or Doom where we're just humping every wall as we go along, hoping that it opens up till you memorize it. Yeah, you're right. It is different. I think it in a different way. That's one of the reasons I liked playing like Persona 5 and Metaphor. You have to do New Game Plus to experience the full game. Or something like Nier Automata. When Nier came out, you had to replay it multiple times to get the different endings and the secrets and the story. Like that's, I think, one of the reasons why that one was so cool to play was for that reason. It gave you an incentive to go back and replay it. Not the same as like, going back to unlock the last weapon kind of secret or unlock a hidden character, but like to experience the full game. You have to do that with those games. And that's why I love them. And also at the same time, hate them in the sense that I have to play 150 hours to play the full game. Remember Super Ghouls and Ghosts? You had to beat it through twice to get the actual ending.
Yeah, no, that was like the secret, right? It's like unless you kind of like made the effort to play it again, and I think also in a higher difficulty. Also,
yeah,
you're like, oh, did you get
to go back through hell?
yeah. I mean, the real difficulty was the jumping. That's 100%. That's what it was.
But I can't tell you this much. There are alternate endings for each of the factions in Dynasty Warriors Origins.
Oh, that's cool.
And you open those up once you complete the campaign.
Don't worry, I'm being engaged here, but like I'm just trying to see if I had.
But I'm also not.
I have a box art. I have a case of I'm trying to find my case of Deadly Alliance, right? Because the Deadly Alliance, when I bought it, I opened it up. It had a list of all the fatalities of somebody wrote down a notepad.
Oh, nice.
And I kept it in there. I was like, "This is a legendary. I'm not gonna take this."
Yeah. The sacred texts. I remember we would get like the infinite ammo cheat code for GTA 3 being written in like the manual and stuff.
Oh yeah, and then
making sure people remember to look on the case for that codec channel.
That's like to me finding a piece of gaming history. Like if I was an archaeologist and I was digging through some artifacts and oh my god, like these guys wrote down codes. What is this barbaric civilization?
Fluffy caught you, bud. Fluffy caught you. We were calling it out ahead of time.
Fluffy called you out.
We're gonna start a GoFundMe for a 9-volt battery.
He knows what's up. I want to put a link down there on Amazon for 9-volt.
Yes, if you can click the affiliate link, we'll get a kickback.
Amazon Essentials.
So we can get a double battery so it doesn't fucking happen again.
Just so you know. At least you know it's working for now. So that's awesome. And these are like some of the things that I've kind of missed as far as like, what when we experienced video games back in the 90s and the early 2000s when we still had magazines and EGMs and the Game Pros and the PSMs, right? Stuff like that. Leading us to our next topic, of course,
Yo, check this out.
Yeah. If it's your first time checking us out, nice. This section we check out old retro gaming ads of the past. So if you're old like us and we've been checking out video games for the longest time, you know that before the internet we had magazines and TV ads, and we like going back and checking them out. So here we go. Let's go back to the past where the games suck ass. So can you guys guess which game this Super Nintendo ad was talking about?
That looks really familiar.
The street cred, the street wise, the street talk, street. You know the rest. It's coming soon.
I swear to God,
ever,
Street Fighter 2.
will you ever reach the end? So this had to be a 2-page spread because I feel like it's a landscape, right? And those were like that's kind of how you can guess how it's a big ad. So if you're taking a 2-page spread in an ad, it's got to be big. And then also it's a Super Nintendo game, so and it's pretty crazy. It's kind of a big deal. So any takers in chat? Has anybody seen this ad in the past and go, "Wow, I saw that before. That's cool."
Oh, core memory unlocked.
Yeah, right.
It's like I don't quite remember that. That's why I guessed it was probably something like Street Fighter 2.
Well, that face, the eyes or something look familiar to me, and I feel like that's going to be a theme. But go for it. What do we got? What is this?
All right, let me see if I can pull it up here. I couldn't. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do it like last time, but that's coming up anyway. So there it is. So you guys guessed right.
Street Fighter 2. You've been asking for it.
Yeah, fair.
So
it was a simpler time.
yeah, I've never SNES'd. Well, the Super Nintendo, the ads at least had this like theme of giant like typography, and they've always give you these suspicious like hints and clues. And so this one was of course Street Fighter, and I do remember seeing an ad in a order magazine where you order your video games by mail, right?
Wow.
And then this is the time where you pre-ordered it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you sent them a check or whatever, which is crazy to think about if you think
With
about
a self-addressed stamped envelope.
Correct. No, well, this one wasn't. So this was a one pager, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to find this freaking ad, but this was a place that was available for you to pre-order Street Fighter 2. I think it was like 8 months before it came out, and they said like pre-order now, $80. $80. Keep that in mind for a Super Nintendo cartridge, and then we'll send you upon release date. And I remember specifically, Dad, like, I don't need a birthday present. I don't need a Christmas present. Just order this for me right now. I really like Street Fighter, right? Mm-hmm. And he did it. And we thought it was a scam because, you don't get something like 8 months later, right? That's, of course. But we did. I think it was like a day late because, I don't know, because mail, right? And I just remember like, wow, I've been waiting 8 months for this. And it's just kind of crazy to think about like how that's so common now, how we order video games online and it comes through the mail, right? Versus back then where it was just kind of ludicrous to give somebody a check and fill out a form on a magazine and mail it to them. That's like sounds so insane today. So
what's crazy to me is just like this giant spread with all this, like you said, huge topography, and then you see like in the little corner, lower left-hand corner, the little cover art kind of thing.
Yeah,
like the label art, like the tiniest little thing in the corner, smaller than the Super Nintendo logo. Like that's how little that was in that real estate. That's crazy.
Yeah, they really wanted to get your attention. Like, I'll pull this one up here. So
yeah, having that like difference, that the black and white. I mean, especially compared to like the stuff we saw from Sega around this era too, which is way more colorful and in your face kind of thing.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Except for the Genesis does one, Nintendo. I think that was literally them flipping it because that was black background, white type, wasn't it?
So if you're only playing, it's not Nintendo. So this was kind of like their counter, like to the Nintendo don't, right? So it's weak, but it's there. Like I feel like if you saw this ad back in the day, you'd kind of be like, wow, like I remember this. Like, speaking of Ghouls and Ghosts, it's right down there. So
yeah, I was gonna say that Adventure Island. What is that last one?
Rival Turf, which was a brawler, beat 'em up for sure. So. No, yeah, these were super popular. I think these were more like in EGMs. I don't think they were in Nintendo Power. I'm just trying to remember. Oh, here's another one. Wow, they were really on this one. So they went really hard with this style, and they kept really pushing Street Fighter 2 because it actually was the best one, like to be on a system. It was like the best system to play it on. So here's a little slap at them. So I don't know if you guys see that yet.
No, I see it. It's just, especially after everything else that we've seen
I
from
know.
Genesis, like the last couple weeks, it doesn't have as much impact for me now. Like looking back, and I'm like, this doesn't seem as strong. But I mean, that's hindsight. That
It's true, and I also feel like Nintendo, aside from that Donkey Kong ad that we saw, Donkey Kong Country 3,
Oh God.
yeah,
I feel like they had to keep their ads family friendly still because they are Nintendo, right? So I mean, that's kind of how they thought of it back in the day.
and that was
Yeah, they're
probably
still
a
trying to.
Nintendo of Japan like thing.
The,
Same as we
the
saw with
rule of
the
thumb, yeah.
Sega of Japan, just that kind of like different markets, different advertising. Who really has kind of control? That's why the Genesis ones were so shocking. Again,
Yeah.
because
And
the
and
Sega of America was just like, we're going to do what we think we need to for our market.
and it's true because Sega was considered like the edgier system, right? In
Oh man,
comparison
dude, we
to
could get a whole conversation about how the
yeah.
'90s as a whole were edgy as hell. Like, get back at your parents. We don't need them. We're gonna be
So
awesome kids.
speaking of edgy, so Nintendo started to switch their marketing campaign to play it loud. I don't know if you guys remember that.
I do
Um,
remember that. Yeah,
yeah,
the will you make it to the end doesn't click for me.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and that's kind of like, and that's what their thing was. They kind of wanted to be more hip. Not so childish. And I remember the latter portion of the Super Nintendo's lifespan, they started doing this play out loud, only specifically that for the exclusive games. What I'm noticing, right? I think this had for Uniracers. I saw this for like Secret of Evermore, right? So it was like only games specific to that system. So
That and also, again, the play it loud ad campaign also went for like, the different what you call it, the different color. I think it was the Game Boy Pockets, was it?
Yep. That was they had like the different. I'll see if I can pull that up. But they had the variety of different colors and like head haircuts for Game Boy Color because of the variety of colors you can get for Game Boy.
Or like tongue
Uh,
colors. I remember
yeah,
that.
and they were so 90s because they were all neon and bright. you know. Let's see if I can find it here.
Seriously, the 90s and the 2000s, I feel like was the most fun decades for tech because you had the multicolored stuff like the different colored Game Boy Pockets and stuff, and then in the 2000s, or at least like latter part of the 90s and in the early 2000s, you had the translucent shells.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the see-through shells, man.
Mm-hmm.
Our Macintoshes, our phones, everything.
Oh, the clear shell was definitely very 90s, 100%.
Welcome. We have some new people in chat. Just saying, hey, good to see you, Andre.
What up? What up? Oh, hello, Kitty. All right, so I found this one. Oh, it's the same one. Nope, never mind.
You come here.
Oh yeah.
Hey.
Now the jump in tech, not just the hardware, but also again like Chop said, the jump from 2D to 3D in the 90s was pretty crazy too.
Man, the stuff we wanted as kids. So funny enough, today, my wife is at 22 weeks now, and Babyla sent me an update of like what size is your, embryo child at this point, and it said a Motorola. It said as of this week, it is the size of a Motorola Razr phone. I wanted one of those Motorola Razr flip phones back in the day when those came out.
Same.
Right around the same time that a couple years before that. Remember the original Matrix, the phone where you press the button, the bottom would slide out.
Yeah.
That Neo had. I wanted one of those so bad.
I did too. I'm not gonna lie. I thought that was the coolest shit ever. And I always want to say, I need an exit. Yeah. No, that was the coolest shit, dude. And it's so funny, like how the Matrix is still kind of like relevant. Like you can still, if it came out today, it would still be like relevant, like to like modern day. So it's kind of interesting.
It is interesting. At least the themes are for sure. I
Yeah.
remember. I want to say it was like 2 years ago or something like that. Like I was hearing from like some friends, like the kids today, what are they wearing? It's like Y2K styles back, and I'm like, no, no. You don't wish that upon yourself. You do not know what you asked.
Oh, I'm still looking for the Game Boy one, but this is an ad that I found that was a rip on Sega Saturn from PlayStation. Pretty much.
If you still want to Saturn your head is...
Like you can't say that shit anymore.
No, you can't do that on television.
It's crazy.
That was pretty good. That's a good one.
Yeah, no, that's good.
With the planet in the background.
That's the
too,
thing.
like
I love the rivalry because, like, like honestly, like I don't love console wars, right? Because that's just so stupid, in my opinion. But I love the fact that like they just poke at each other, right? Because it creates conversation. It's almost like chat in in any like any publication. The comments are always like contrarian, and they always want to debate, right? So it just reminds me back in the day.
And
wait, being back. Oh no.
Yep. Right there, center screen. That's Battle Arena Toshinden, isn't it?
Yeah, with Ridge Racer, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It went silent just in time for that beep to go off.
There's another one.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
God.
More power.
Edge magazine.
Yeah.
Edge.
Oh shit.
Man, everyone talks about Game Pro, Game Informer, EGM. What about Edge?
Edge was like the most it was the most expensive one. It was always $2 more than all the other magazines. But because I think it was a British publication. And they were always like going for the classy route, right? They weren't going for like, because GamePro had like the gamer look and they had all the characters like Ninja X, remember that guy, right? But like an EGM was more like down to earth. I called it like the working man's magazine for gamers, right? Edge was always like the minimalistic, like very like highbrow, like this magazine's expensive, always in the bag magazine, you know? That's kind of what I remember it as to be.
Get your edge in gaming.
I mean, that's probably how they sold it. The one other
well,
one I
probably
wanted
with more of an accent, but
let's see. The other one I wanted to share with you guys was actually a Mortal Kombat ad. Let's see if we can find it.
I still can't get over that Stevie Wonder one from last week.
Oh my God.
That's
another you can't do that on television.
That's pretty wild. I'll show this box art here while I'm looking for this other thing.
I did get mine for Christmas. Like thinking back to that video, that kid freaking out about Nintendo 64. I remember mine was Christmas. We got that 1080 snowboarding and GoldenEye, I think.
Oh my God. That's a whole truckload of memories just came.
In the moment I said that, I still remember, and I'm hoping for like maybe one of these like boot ups as James is like starting up. We have the 1080 snowboarding character select screen, because that is ingrained in my head. You know, like work your body.
Stop. Those are so good. Oh my God, these ads are so cool. Like, I don't know, I could be here all day looking for these, but here's the one. I kind of gave up the Game Boy one, but here's the one that I recall specifically seeing in a magazine, and I was super excited to see it just because of the game.
Yes, this one I definitely remember, and I have seen it multiple times in Nintendo Power magazines.
Yeah, and it was like, this thing was, any time that you saw an arcade game ported into your home console, I think my brain would explode. I was like, oh my God, I get to have this arcade game in my house, like, you know, in my own way, right? So anytime I saw a really close like port, I was always obsessed with like buying it, you know. So
it was always sad when you saw like it was a kind of a downgrade visually or gameplay wise. But I mean, Turtles in Time was one of my favorites to play in the actual arcade, so getting the home version was nice. It definitely, like, now that I'm older, and then like you and I worked on that retro game store together that had pinball machines and arcade machines, you could see it side by side and see like later on how much, like, maybe as a kid you didn't realize it. It did make me really want a home port of the Simpsons arcade game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Beat 'em up.
For sure. Here's the 1080 ad that I was looking for. And then here's the thing. I think like the only time we got an actual port of the Simpsons arcade game was a download on the PS3 and 360. And then the Fox license had expired, so you can't download it anymore. So unfortunately, we can't get that.
Gravestones. Hell yeah.
This is pretty dark for a snowboarding ad.
Get in or get out. I love that ad campaign.
Let's see here. There's some TurboGrafx stuff. Chat, is there any ad specific that comes to mind? You're like, hey, I remember this. Do you have this ad? I have a bunch, and I'd rather go.
He's got a files and binders full.
Yeah, I have a treasure. I found a Reddit post of this guy collecting every ad, and I was like, I love this guy,
bro.
So at this point, it's more like, which ad are you looking for versus like, do we have that?
Needs a search function.
I know, and it's all like, oh, here's a cool one. I mean, this is a lie, but this is relevant to what I was playing earlier.
Yeah, Jago's Altered Beast, Road Rash. I remember Road Rash too.
Okay, yeah, I'll find that. I'll post this one up real quick so we can get an update here. But yeah, Road Rash was a good one. I think I remember like it was like a photo of a guy punching a dude in the face with the helmet on. So, and if maybe I'm wrong or maybe I'm right, but I'll go check it out.
Safety first. You may be fighting with chains and bats and stuff, but you don't want to get hurt if you fall off your bike.
Right.
Oh, look at that! Look at that demon. that sly look back there.
Hey.
You want to play some Doom? Yeah, we want to play some Doom. Come on, man. Let's play some Doom.
It's so good. But the thing that I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like the graphics look so good for Game Boy Advance in those screenshots. Like the Super Nintendo one, it was kind of iffy, but like Game Boy Advance, man, look at that. That's pretty good.
Man, you can play Doom on your like pregnancy test now. Like, the Game Boy Advance can run it.
That was the wildest thing about the GBA, though. The fact that the Game Boy Advance could run games like on par with or better than Super NES.
Well, just imagine all those re-releases too. They had those Castlevania ports that were on there that ran really well. Advance Wars, I remember running really well on GBA as well.
Yeah.
And Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah. They did the Advance. They did 1 and 2 Dawn of Souls re-release. They released the later one, 6. Man, speaking of, they were talking about doing a new like 6 remake next.
All right, Jagos. I found Road Rash 3. Let me see.
Oh, and also I decided to do a quick Google search, and man, I forgot how wild the magazine ads for freaking Battletoads and Double Dragon were.
Oh yeah. There's some good stuff.
I'm looking at this stuff like, how the hell did we get away with this in the 90s?
Man, it was the 90s, bro.
There you go.
When you die, it's not your life that flashes before your eyes.
It's the cattle prod.
Yes. Hell yeah.
Bro, they got nunchucks in this game. Like,
yeah.
What? Yo, Road Rash was something else.
Bro,
hey man, by the third one they had to like change it up. Cattle prods, nunchucks.
Love that game. Hey, here's the thing. This game is locked into the vault of EA. They could bring it back if they wanted to. They could bring it back. They could, what's funny? They could probably have the guys that Burnout make this game. It'd be so fun.
That would be dope.
And yeah, I was actually just talking to, who was I talking to? I think Andre. I was talking to you, Andre, on my last stream, talking about how EA like really pigeonhole themselves into like the type of games they make, like Battlefield sports, right? Then they sometimes do like these licensed games, but then if you think about like their gamography, like what was the other game? Like Dante's Inferno's locked in their vault somewhere, right? And then there's all these other weird, obscure games that they're just not gonna pick up. Like they kind of took a risk with Dead Space, and that's great. But like, there's just so much other stuff like this in there.
Yeah, but the problem is we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
It's risk. It's risk and the money 100%. Needed to make these games and the cost of things nowadays. But yeah, if they did something like what Sega did for a while there, where they let some other teams, do their IPs, like design those IPs, that's money that they don't have to worry about as much, kind of thing. Like going that kind of route would be nice to see a different team kind of like realize some of those. If we got more stuff like that, I'd be all for it. And shout out to Jagos as well, like Skitchin. I loved playing
Skitchin.
Dude, I loved
that at the store.
I was, I was not, because no one knew what that game was. And I was like,
everyone was
Road Rash, but you're blading. You're on inlines.
Okay. This is a game that the team that worked on Burnout could totally just go ham on remaking, man.
Rock and Roll Racing, yeah.
Man, I miss Interplay so much. Childhood.
Yeah, no, it's this Blackthorn, right? Lost Vikings, they were all Interplay. Now they're absorbed.
So I'm really happy you mentioned that and a couple other things, because when we get to the articles and section for discussion, like there's some stuff that ties into, a couple of things we've talked about tonight. It's just like how it ended up working out is really cool.
Okay, well,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, there you go. And here's the thing. I love that you guys. I love how the chat's sending me all these suggestions. Well, there we go. The next time we have the show, to go me a suggestion, we'll find it and we'll put it. We'll put up your childhood memory on the screen. So, but with that said, speaking of memories, let's go to this week in gaming history. Okay. Oh, this is the old one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll go. Here's the modern version. Woo! That one, Ric Flair at the end. Woo! It's pretty hard. I'm not gonna lie. That one, that's
from the top rope.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah. Chop, if you're on there, that was from the top rope, bro. Like for real. For real. Not even kidding. That was sick. But anyway, yeah, this week in gaming history, February 2 Pinball came out, but that's not what's on the screen. I'm sure you didn't guess what the song was in the beginning, but that was from Sonic 3. I think it was called Marble Dive, like Act 2 or something like that. I was like listening to like Sonic music, and I was like, man, this music's pretty jive.
Let's consider the fact that Michael Jackson helped work on the music for Sonic 3.
No, and that's the thing. I was like, why does this music stand out so much in comparison to the other ones, right?
That's why it's
say what you will, but I loved the soundtrack from 2. There's some specific levels from Sonic 2 that are still like iconic.
I think they're all good.
Absolutely.
I think they're all good. And here's the thing, they match the stage that they're in. I think that was the most clever part. Like, I think
the casino level.
Yeah, Marble Zone was like very industrial, and so I was like, okay, this is very like jazzy, like and then Green Hill Zone is like more adventurous, kind of like that. So Sonic is awesome when it comes to soundtrack. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate you. But yeah, did you guys? Is this the one that introduces Knuckles? Right.
That's with the Sonic and Knuckles attachment.
Okay.
Yeah, the expansion that you can attach Sonic 3 to, and then play Knuckles in Sonic 3. Because if I remember right, and sorry, I did not mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
If I remember right, just on that thought, what happened was they were looking to do Sonic 3, and they had to split it into 2 carts because of the size of the game. And so they released Sonic and Knuckles later. And to get around to like the technical issues at the time, because it couldn't quite run on its own, what they did is they put that slot on the top so you can slot in Sonic 3 and play Sonic 3 in Sonic and Knuckles kind of thing.
What did you just say to me?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was weird. It was weird, like the dev on that. Yeah.
It reminds me
they effectively broke it, and there's like, okay, we got to reattach it if you want the full game.
It just reminds me of that 32X TV ad that said, "Mommy, what are those 2 consoles doing?"
Yeah, no, that was one of my favorite ads.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. Jago says, fun fact, I used Sonic to cheat at a school pajama overnight. When everyone was gone, I put in the code, beat the game as everyone came back, and everybody wondered how I beat the game so fast. You delinquent. I love it.
Man, but you were the king. You were king for that night.
That sounds like something a Sega, a Genesis owner would do. It's because they're so hip and edgy.
Not a purist Nintendo player.
Not a purist Nintendo. We play from stage 1 with no pausing, like 3 coins, 3 lives. That's it. But yeah, it's this was I just realized he's holding 3. He's throwing his gang sign up. That's so cool. So man.
Well, he didn't do it upside down.
Yeah, little details like that though, it makes it cool. But I'm assuming that was Knuckles in the bush back there, like they were kind of like hinting that he's a character, right? Mm-hmm. But you weren't able to play Knuckles, but he was just in the game, I think, in Sonic 3. So that's interesting. But yeah, other games that came out this day was Pinball for the NES in 1985. I always love adding old retro games on there. And then we're going to fast forward immediately because it's, I don't know, a slow day to White Knight Chronicles International Edition on the PS3 in 2010. Star Trek Online on the PC in 2010, Stalker, Call of Pripyat on the PC in 2010, Ragnarok Odyssey on the Vita in 2012 in Japan, The Takeover, the game made and produced by Matt McMuscles on the PC in 2016, and Valheim PC on the 2021, and Persona 3 Reload came out on the PlayStation Xbox PC in 2024. Man, we're already talking about games that came out last year. That's crazy.
Well, if they're bangers.
No, it's true. It's true. No, it's just kind of wild. And I started noticing this. The amount of games being released exponentially grows after 2000, right? From the 80s and 90s, they're really slow.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot more dev studios out there. It's more of a giant market. And I'd say, if anything, like looking at some of the more recent stuff, it's a lot of like mobile stuff on a lot of these lists. So in terms of big releases, especially as we come around to the later part of this year, we'll be talking about a lot of 2023 and 2024 games because there were some big releases in the last couple years. And when we roll around to those days, we'll probably have some great memories. And who knows, when we finally get around to the fall again, like when we started this, there was a lot of really good iconic games that were like 80s, 90s that we started with just when we started doing the podcast. So it's that time of year, man, that quarter, that first, or I guess we're in the fourth quarter now, going into the first.
I do remember like before we kind of took our vacation, our small vacation on the holidays, like all we talked about was Call of Duty because it was released on everything, it's that time of year. So also,
and Jagos, to answer your question, Andre, myself, and Ace will be Yakuza Pirates this year.
Awesome. And also welcome to Sleepy Dragon Gaming. Good to have you here. Let's see here. All right, move on to the next one. All right, so February 3rd, the legendary Miss Pac-Man came out in the arcades in 1982. I was but a wee 1 year old. I didn't even know what video games was. So that's pretty awesome. I was trying to find a arcade marquee for Miss Pac-Man versus the Genesis version, but since we were just talking about
the official Genesis seal of quality,
seal of quality, not licensed by Nintendo. It's just the official seal of quality. Somebody at Sega was like, "This is okay for our system."
No, that was their answer to the Nintendo seal of quality.
Yeah.
They did that on purpose. It meant nothing to them. It's just like, oh, cool, just like stamp it.
I think it was designed to say like, so you couldn't play pirated games and say like it wasn't like, so if it broke your system, it was like it wasn't licensed by us, therefore you can't sue us or something like that.
Yeah, it was something along those lines. That's why Nintendo carts like this game is a Tengen game. So the Tengen games had different carts. It was like the black cart with the gold label for the Tengen ones on NES.
And they were like curved on the front.
On the top, yeah, they had like a little grip on the back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were different, and they weren't officially licensed because they re-released them in the licensed version, and they were in a normal cart, from what I remember. And I didn't know that until I started working with you. So that was special.
Like those in the offshoot Wisdom Tree Bible games as well, like the powder blue carts.
Yep.
Oh god, I remember those.
Yeah. So that was one of the ways you can like physically see if a game was legit by like the shape of the card itself. So a couple of the games that were released on the 3rd was Art of Fighting 2 in the arcade in 1994 in Japan. A game called Radical Dreamers on the SNES in 1996 in Japan. And a lot of people don't know, I think that's the game in between Chrono Trigger and Cross.
Yep.
So a lot of people don't know that. Unreal 2 The Awakening on PC in 2003. Another White Knight Chronicles game, Origins on the PSP in 2011 in Japan. And also a personal favorite of mine is Darkest Dungeon on the PC, came out in 2015. So that's a super fun one.
Now with Darkest Dungeon, man, that hits a little different today.
Oh.
Reason being, back when Darkest Dungeon, back around the time the Darkest Dungeon first dropped. This was back when I was actually, doing my, I was on my previous podcast, on the Metro City Boys podcast, and we had the narrator, Wayne June. We had him, the ancestor, on the show with us.
Right.
He was such a cool dude. Like I was damn near calling him Uncle Wayne by the time we were done with the show. That is how cool this dude is. He's like another Peter Cullen.
Oh,
So
nice.
in 2015, 2016, what was the status of your fire alarm then?
Full charge. That's what it was.
Fully charged.
Removed from the wall.
Fully charged.
It was removed from the wall.
Yeah, and I feel you on that because his narration in that game was really what drove that game. Honestly, because I'm a new Darkest Dungeon player. I think I only started back in 2022, 2023, right? On PC. It was on sale. It came with everything, and I got it for like $5. And I tried it out, and I was like, "What? I love the art. I dig it." And two, but like his narration. Right, I thought that was like that's what really kind of like got my attention. I was like, this guy is really cool,
And the reason that it really hits different though is because we lost him just a couple days ago.
Yeah, I saw that on
literally like the day of Darkest Dungeon's 10th anniversary.
Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons we talk about like gaming history and stuff is those kind of memories. You got to make a really cool memory and got to know that person, part of that gaming experience you had, and it's fleeting.
Yeah,
and Sleepy's in chat right now reminding us that sleep is death without the commitment. Like
that was actually one of his quotes from when he was on the show with us.
Yeah, that's awesome. See, and there you go. Right, so that's kind of what Nick was saying is that this is why we have this conversation because it does bring up those old memories. So
yeah, and why we always encourage chat to say that stuff too, just to the memories that they have too. It's a community, so it's cool. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah,
that is a cool thing. We highlight so people know, like when we write this up, we highlight the games and the history that we have like a personal connection with. That's why when we first started doing this, we talked a lot at the start because there's a lot of games that released that were like, I remember playing this whole story I had.
I also Unreal 2 was on this list in 2003, and I wanted to kind of highlight that because I actually just finished watching Secret Level with my roommate. I watched all the episodes, and the Unreal episode was freaking sick. Like, I don't know if you guys seen it or chat. If you guys watched that episode called Zan in Secret Level, but they did a good job of like featuring Unreal. I didn't really know what the plot was, to be honest, in Unreal Tournament, but if Zan had anything to do with the original game and like kind of like the lore and world of Unreal, it was really well done in my opinion. So super cool. All right, next day on the 4th. All right, so The Sims came out on PC in 2000. I'd say this is a very big deal because this is kind of like I hate to say it, but like casual gamers, they love playing The Sims, right? And it's all they play, and that's okay, right?
And non-casual, I got into The Sims.
Yeah,
more so The Sims 2, but I remember the OG, man.
I was not day one. I was day one. My friend had let's say acquired it from the internet for The Sims, and he goes, "Hey, try this out if you like SimCity so much." And next thing you know, it was 9 hours later, and I was like, "What the hell did I just do?" Like,
it was like, "Is it Tuesday already?"
Yeah, it literally flew by. I installed it that evening, and next thing you know, 6 a.m, and I was like, "I don't think I feel like I haven't done anything in this game."
You haven't, but your sim has like completed your life goals.
Oh, for sure.
Had a family, multiple careers,
living vicariously through my sim for sure.
Right,
and he had better furniture than I did. Like,
oh yeah,
that was the crazy part.
It hits different. Overnight gaming binges hit different when it's
because your body doesn't feel the same anymore.
Well, not even that. Just like old school PC games, especially like mid to late 90s and early 2000s, like The Sims, like Sim City, all the way up through Sim 2000, or one of my personal obscure favorites, Superhero League of Hoboken, New Jersey. Like gaming binges with like DOS games and old Mac games just hit different because there was just a different vibe.
It's so fun when we get together and do like a LAN party at our age now with like certain games. It's fun to like relive that. We start noticing about like 11:30 or so. People are like, I don't know, man. I don't know if we can go. It's like, come on, we got to power through. We got to get
sleepy.
1 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
and then you catch that wind. You catch that second wind. You blink. is that the sun coming up?
Yeah,
That's true.
that
Andre
was
said
definitely one of my favorite memories.
he hasn't finished Secret Level yet, but he saw the last Pac-Man episode. The last episode he saw was the Pac-Man episode. I'm sorry, that episode was dark. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. Other games to check out for this day: Lode Runner on the PlayStation in 1998.
Hell yeah.
Another Armored Core game, Master of Arena. And I don't know if I was going to ask you about this, Ace, because I don't remember if I asked you about this one specifically. On the PlayStation in 1999 Japan. Awesome Cross, is that what I'm hearing here? Awesome
Cross 98.
Awesome Cross 98 on the PC in 2003. Sins of a Solar Empire on the PC in 2008. God Eater on the PSP in 2010 in Japan. XCOM 2, a personal favorite of mine on PC in 2016. Apex Apex Legends on the PC, PS4, and Xbox One in 2016. And a really obscure Dragon Ball game, Dragon Ball Z Battle of Z on the PS3, Vita, and 360 in 2014.
So
tell me more.
Wonder on that, like that's the one I highlighted was Oxum Cross 98.
Yeah.
Does chat or do you know why that is so funny to talk about? It's like the old days of the internet kind of thing.
Oxum, I gotta Google this shit.
So there was a website called Homestar Runner.
Oh yeah.
And Strong Bad was one of the characters, and they made fun of like announcers like Sunday kind of thing.
Okay,
So
okay.
Oxum Cross 98 was a thing they just called out. That episode was so funny, like old Flash like website kind of thing was so funny. They actually released a game eventually called that, the Oxum Cross 98, and they released it in 2003. So it's like it just happened to be released that day. When I saw that online, I was like, we got to talk about that, like old school. Like we talked, I want to say like one of our first episodes, we were talking about like Newgrounds and E-Bombs World, like old websites
Internet
we used to go to.
1.0.
Yeah. Internet 1.0 before
internet,
YouTube. And so like Oxum Cross 98, Homestar Runner, I just remember those videos and being able to click on the Flash little like hidden buttons and stuff and get secret stuff. Right. But yeah, it's just kind of a cool thing. Just like a little bit of history there.
The guys that made Homestar Runner made Oxum Cross.
Yeah, they made that game.
All right, that's fair.
A very, very basic, like side scrolly kind of racing game, but it was based just on the episode that just their fans ran with.
I love it. It's kind of like if the producers of The Simpsons made Bone Storm. That'd be so fun.
Right.
Ace, tell me more about Armored Core Master Arena. What's this?
Now,
what this?
With the Armored Core games, Master of Arena and Project Phantasma were pretty much like the two expansions to the original Armored Core game. And it kind of set the standard as far as, how a core game would release, or, how a numbered entry in the series would release, and then it would have the expansions thereafter. Yeah. Master of Arena specifically was like, this was just straight up nothing but multiplayer.
Really?
So you get in and you would load your save data from AC and from Project Phantasma, and all of the parts that you had unlocked, you would have them ready to go to build your own custom cores and just duke it out in MOA.
Literally a multiplayer DLC for the first Armored Core game.
Yep. And it came out at a budget price too.
Oh, okay. Like I'm assuming half, like $20-$30.
Yeah, pretty close to that, yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool. Yeah, there was we were talking about how like the extreme games from Dynasty Warriors, you can take your save file from the regular version and play it over. So I guess that's how they were doing it back then. It was it was a preview of things to come, and we never noticed.
Exactly. So, and like there were numerous times when I would sit down and play this with my buddies, where like we'd literally gather over at one of our friends' house. We would basically stay overnight and just have what we call Unga battles, where we literally take just default Armored Core builds, like nothing unlocked. Just take the basic suits and just see who could stay on the longest.
Yeah. Street Fighter Cross Tekken, no gems. That's what it was. No gems. Fluffy, let's see here. Jay goes, I think PS1, it was so long ago, it might be going crazy. Think about it, guys. I think they just celebrated their 30th anniversary on PlayStation. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That is wild. And we were like, I was a teenager when that came out, so hella old. So that's wild.
PlayStation 1.
No, like yeah, because they released that gray PS4 PS5 Pro, right? Isn't that like the 30th anniversary? Something along those times. But yeah,
Oh,
the
the
other
North
game.
American release. Yeah. Was I
Okay.
think that was back in September, but yeah.
XCOM 2, great. That's actually another game I wish they would kind of. Is it Firaxis owns that, right? I hope they come back and visit with XCOM 3. I didn't like the recent one. It was a Chimera Squad. They kind of toned down XCOM into a more like squad based, like local strategy game. They emphasize more on the characters versus like the whole picture, right? Which was cool in a certain way, but just wasn't like it didn't have that XCOM spirit, in my opinion. Let's see here, and the only other game on here that I'm curious about, not curious, but I actually had a sealed copy of Sins of the Solar Empire on PC, the collector's edition, and I just sold it on eBay recently, which is funny. And it was on there. It was on there for 6 months, and somebody actually bought it. So hopefully the code still works. But it was sold as is. All right. February 5th. This game is special because this thing was technically a failure, but then it led to a success. On February 5th, Demon Souls on the PS3 came out in 2009 in Japan. And if you guys notice, I think it was developed by Atlas or published by Atlas. I can't remember which one. Published, right? Yeah, before Sony got their hands on it, honestly. So, yeah, I don't know if you guys have any experience with Demon Souls. I remember buying this game at the GameStop in the mall after work, and then putting it in the system and going, "Why is this game so fucking hard?" That's the first thing I said. Like, what the fuck is this game? What kind of sicko is this game? And then I was like, saying all that shit, and then I was like, but I can't put it down. Like it was weird. I was like, it was my fault that I was dying, but at the same time, I was like, no, I can do it. No, I can do it. No, I messed up here, but I can do it. So they like when they were designing this game, I felt like they made it difficult enough to like tease you that you can do it. You just messed up in some way. Right? Like you're not a bad player. You just made bad decisions during that fight. So that was like my hook when it came to the Souls games. This was the progenitor of that. So
it was before its time. Like you said, it did not sell well when it first came out because it was just kind of an unknown.
Yeah.
This was definitely from Software. It was the same team.
Mm-hmm.
It's just afterwards, Dark Souls did so well that people then rushed back to look for Demon Souls. I remember it was really hard to find. Like people would come in and ask for it all the time at our store.
Oh yeah,
it was not like in heavy publication by that point. It got the greatest hits, like Red Case re-release at one point, and the rest is history. But it's one of the reasons people are kind of clamoring for an HD like remake or update to this one.
Mm-hmm. This game right here was so frustrating. And honestly, I was watching like a documentary on this game specifically, and they were saying the reason why this game survived was because of Let's Players, right? The streaming actually saved this game. Like there was enough emotional reactions to all the deaths that people wanted to jump in on the bandwagon to play it on their stream. Right. And so more and more people and streamers wanted to do it. And actually, this happened between Demon Souls and Dark Souls. And I think that's how they got the green light with Dark Souls, just because they saw like this sold like crap in the beginning, but near the end, everybody just wanted this game. Like Nick said, everybody's trying to find a copy of this thing. But yeah, that was the documentary I was watching. They considered to be a failure. And this game was redone multiple times because people were playtesting it and they were saying like, this is kind of hard, But I think Miyazaki was like, no, it's supposed to be hard. And then smiley face. Yeah. And so
this is kind of hard.
Yeah, because this was the time where like other games like Kingdoms of Amalur, right? And so those other like action RPG games were like, they weren't as difficult. Like this is unique on it for its release date. So this is where it all began. Other games that came out on February 5th, The Guardian Legend on the Nintendo in 1988. And if you know what that game is, chat, props to you. It plays very similar to Blaster Master. R-Types on the PlayStation in 1993 in Japan, Eternal Champions Challenge from the Dark Side on Sega CD in 1995, Don't Tell the Jedi, Harvest Moon 64 on the N64 in 1999 in Japan. Those Nintendo titles for the 64 were always great because you know where they came from by their title. And Turok on the 360 and PS3 in 2008. Dead Space 3 also came out on PC, PS3, 360 in 2013. Fists of the North Star, Ken's Rage 2 came out on the PS3 and 360 in 2013. And the beginning of the Dragon Ball Xenoverse saga came out on the PS3, PS4, 360, Xbox One on 2015 in Japan. Big day for gaming. Big day. Lots of variety there. Now, I know we have a Ken's Rage player here. So, anybody, do you want to add to that, Ace?
I'd actually picked up when I saw that the first game had been released on the PS3, I had to snatch that up quick. And Ken's Rage 2 is definitely one of those that, greatly expanded, not just on the previous game, but, it was actually one of the first third-party licensed games that I had played from Koei Tecmo that really got me back into reading up on the material as well. Because it's like, okay, now that I've played this here, let me go back, read through the manga, see how closely it matches up, or see what else they embellished, and just like comparing the scenes, comparing the characters, especially the newer ones that were added in, and like it was damn near 1-to-1. But of course, it had that signature Koei Tecmo, let's kind of, let's muso this up a little bit kind of flavor to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that. And I think like at the time specifically for me, like I was really into the Dynasty Warriors Gundam series. So didn't really get into so much in the One Piece one, but like anything that was like Koei Tecmo, I was like all about. Like, oh man, it's like Dynasty Warriors, but which license are they using, right? So
I will recommend this though. Best licensed game that Koei Tecmo has done thus far. I'll give you two of them: Berserk and the Band of the Hawk.
Pretty good.
And Attack on Titan 2 Final Battle.
Okay, yeah, those are pretty good. Yeah, I haven't really tried to Fairy Tail, or there was another one I can't remember. I think Fairy Tail is more of an RPG, right? But yeah, those are really good. Attack on Titan 1 feels really good to play. Berserk, I streamed that actually back in 2020, so I'm all about that. No, those are good. Those are good ones, and hopefully they go back. They kind of reassess and go back into their Warrior series in some way or form. Like I would love to see, because I know my first game that I streamed on my PlayStation 5 was Fate Samurai Remnant, right? And they helped make that game. And there is a feeling of Dynasty Warriors in that game, right, with Fate combined to it. But I hope they go back to like more traditional, maybe like apply the Dynasty Warriors Origins engine on there, because like I said, I love Samurai Warriors 5, right? And if they do something like that with another license, that'd be super cool. So, yeah, great. All right. Next one, the game that we've been chatting about in the check this out. Street Fighter came out on the 6th of February in 1991 in the arcade in Japan, thus launching a myriad of fighting game replicas in the future. And now we're on the 6th iteration, and it's just like this game was the game that started it all. It wasn't the first, but it was definitely the most popular. So, chat right now, tell me your first Street Fighter 2 experience. Mine was on a ferry in Canada. I don't know, that's weird, right? And I was playing Final Fight, right? And I don't know, that's kind of a weird start already. And because this ferry had an arcade in the ferry, right? And I was playing Final Fight, and my cousin goes, "Hey, you want to play me a Street Fighter?" I was like, "What the hell is that?" So he took me over to the machine and whooped my ass. and I was like, "How you doing those fireballs, man? That's cheating, bro. I don't, you know all the secret moves." Like, I just remember just getting mad, but I wasn't like upset at the game. I just wanted to play it like better. I wanted to learn all the moves. I want to learn all the characters, and to me that's where I started it. Like I picked Ryu, he picked Ken, right? He beat me, and I was like, how did I lose? We're like the same character. You're cheating. All the little kid like comebacks you can give them, and I just started like learning that's when I started playing fighting games for the first time, and good fighting games, because there were some fighting games released on the Super Nintendo that didn't really do justice, like Doomsday Warrior. Anybody know Doomsday Warrior? So,
do you I don't know how much you like watch anime at all, but if you're really into Street Fighter 2, there's an anime series called High Score Girl. I highly recommend watching that series. It's kind of like a rom-com, but it's based around this kid's love for Street Fighter 2. Like he's a really good Street Fighter 2 Guile player, and he ends up like meeting his match, this girl that he just can't beat, and it's his classmate. And it's like following their stories. He tries to like better himself and like go to arcades and like beat people, but he still can't beat her. Ends up falling for her. Like it's good. It's a fun watch, but especially if you like Street Fighter 2, because his like inner like voice is Guile talking to him and giving him pep talks.
That's dope.
Like it's pretty funny. Like it's worth it for that alone. If you're a fan
I
of Street
hope
Fighter.
I hope the English version it was Travis Willingham because that's his voice actor. But Ace, since you haven't seen it, right, Ace?
No, I haven't seen it.
The reason why, and I'll tell you why, this is what makes sense to you after I tell you this. The reason why he's so salty against his girl, because she mains Zangief. And he loses to Zangief all
the time.
And in Street Fighter 2, if you're Guile versus Zangief, how are you
Three
losing
grabs in your
to Zangief? How are you losing to Zangief when you're Guile? That's why it's funny, because the matchup sucks for Zangief.
the matchup should suck, but again, 3 grabs and you're dead.
That's why he's so mad, because he's like, "No, I got this." No, you don't.
Nah, my first experience with Street Fighter 2, I was literally chilling at the apartments, just little big head Ace running around chilling at the apartments. I look across the street and I noticed that they had just opened a swap meet right across from where I was living. So that weekend, went across the street with my brothers. A couple of my cousins came by to visit. We went over. We were checking out all the stores, and there was a little arcade section, like damn near, center mass in the swap meet. Street Fighter 2 was right there, pretty much as I was walking up, and I'm like, "What's this?" And the rest is history. Like again, it was the same sort of thing. I watched my brothers and my cousins play for a little bit. They picked Ryu and Ken. I picked Willie. It's like I picked Willie, didn't know what to do. Picked Zangief, kind of knew what to do because I was just wiggling the stick and just button mashing.
You're like that kid in that Daigo's and that kid like playing each other, and the kid's like that kid. I love that gif.
Yep.
Can't find that gif. It's so funny.
But it was literally after. It was like shortly after that, like later on that year, when Street Fighter 2, of course, came to the Super NES. $80. And that was when I actually sat down and really started learning how to play it, and losing to my cousins at first, and then getting better until the point where I was the one that was staying on for hours and getting in trouble because I was staying on for hours.
Yeah. Dude, I gotta tell you, man, like Street Fighter 2 and like Turbo and Super Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat, these games were like, as soon as I got out of school, I would be stoked to go to my friend's house with my cartridge, pop that in their system, and we play this until my parents picked us up, from their house or whatever, because I wasn't allowed to be in my house by myself.
Yep.
So I'd hang out at their place. We'd play fighting games, and that's how we bond. Like literally, we do our homework and we play Street Fighter. We play fighting games together. More fighting games, more competitive games than co-op games in this era. What I noticed, and it's just how we establish our friendship. Like we compete, but yet we weren't like we were rivals, but we weren't enemies. You know what I'm saying? So. Mm-hmm. And I hope some the kids these days have something like that, because it builds a strong foundation for friendship. Even to this day, my friend from Chicago, his name Gordon, he messages me and says like, "Hey, are you still good at fighting games?" Because we often just played Mortal Kombat after school and after and hanging out, and actually Killer Instinct was his game. Like he would be good at Killer Instinct and bad at Street Fighter. So it was just memories, all over the place, which is good. And this cart specifically, I was kind of like disappointed in the artwork. And when I was a kid, because when you're at the arcade, you got the marquee, you got the Japanese street art, right? And I thought that was the coolest shit, and I expected that to be in the box art also. So I almost thought, because little James wasn't very bright, right? His int was like 2, and I thought I was getting a bootleg copy because I ordered this off the internet. And I was like, "Oh, it's not the same. It's not the same game." Like, but it was fine. But I was just panicking because I was a kid and not smart. So that's that. Anybody in chat have a Street Fighter 2 story? Get good had to be done. That's right. All right. Well. I totally skipped the rest of the games. What the hell? That's how awesome those games were. The other games that came out on the 6th of February was Adventures of Tom Sawyer on the NES in 1989 Japan. I put that one specifically because I remember renting this game multiple times from the store. Reckless, the Yakuza missions on the Xbox in 2002. Chibi Robo on the GameCube in 2006. If you guys know X-Blades on PS3 and the 360 in 2009, The Darkness 2 on PC in 2012, and whoever owns Darkness as an IP needs to bring that back. It was super good. Soul Calibur Lost Swords on the PS3 in 2014 in Japan, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus on the PS4 in 2020 in Japan, and Sifu also came out on the PS4 in 2022. My thing, I don't know what Lost Swords was on the PS3. Can somebody remind me what that was?
Soul Calibur Lost Swords?
Yeah, I thought that was the one on the Wii, but that's different.
No, that's different. And I keep getting that confused because whenever I think of like fighting games or different games that had like weird Wii offshoots, I think of Castlevania.
Yeah.
Castlevania Judgment.
Yeah,
was a thing. Oh my god,
that's definitely a Kusoge game.
Soul Calibur Lost Swords was the free-to-play Soul Calibur 4.
What? Free-to-play? Excuse me? Oh yeah, this was the era where they were trying out like Tekken Hybrid, right?
Yeah, like Tekken Hybrid and Tekken Revolution.
Guys, I don't know if you guys remember, chat, this was the time Namco was experimenting on digital quarters. I know that sounds fucked up, but like they made you, not made you, but like you can download the game for free. You only had X amount of matches to play. And if you wanted to play more, you can buy digital quarters to play more matches. As you can see, it didn't work out very well because I don't even remember that game.
Oh, you blocked it out.
I probably did. I was probably like, I'm so disappointed in this. This is trash.
Your mind was trying to protect you.
No, it's to me that was like, how low can you get? First, you give us gems on Street Fighter Cross Tekken, right? And then now you give us like digital quarters to play our fighting games. Like, I get it that it's free,
but still,
like the core gameplay of just matches is what people want, and you're gonna charge that. Now, I understand if they do the free to play model and they chose characters to unlock and to buy,
like with Killer Instinct.
Yes, that is a great model. But to actually fight in a fighting game, that's like they're literally trying to give you the arcade experience at home, the monetization portion of it. So that's not I'm a hard pass, dog. Also, shout out to anybody in chat that knows what X-Blades was, because I only know from the box art, and I was too scared to buy it. I didn't know what it was. And The Darkness 2 is another IP, I think. I don't know who owns that. Is it like 2K? I can't remember. But that's a game that needs to be re-released again in some way or form, because I do remember that was very obscure and everybody liked the concept of that game. I'm pretty sure I'm dying right now. Also, Sifu, another game on secret level. Super cool. So check that out when you guys get a chance. And Sifu itself is an awesome game. And that developer is also releasing a new soccer game, or aka football game, coming out pretty soon as well. All right, so on the 7th of February, Way of the Samurai 2 came out on the PS2 in 2002 in Japan. And this game was popularized from I was exposed to this game courtesy of that Asian kid. He had all three of them, I think. The first two were on the PlayStation 2, and then the last one was on the PS3, I think. And it was like, at the time, it was like Mass Effect with samurais, because you make a choice, right, and then your choices affect your next like experience in the game. Um, Another game I never fully played, but I just watched them play, and I thought it was very entertaining. So I don't know who owns Way of the Samurai, but that's, to me, this is the closest thing you'll get to like a Jade Empire. And that's sad. That makes me upset and sad to think about. But other games that came out that day, a great game rivaling Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, Champions Return to Arms was the EverQuest version of Baldur's Gate on the PS2 in 2005. Also an extremely rare game to find. This is the sequel, I think, to the other one, Return to something. I can't remember what the first one was called. Tales of Legendia on the PS2 in 2006. The infamous Gotham City Imposters on the PC, PS3 in 2012. Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning on the PC, PS3, 360 in 2012. The Darkness 2 also coming out on the console on the PS3 in 2012. Resident Evil Revelations on the 3DS in 2012. And Hogwarts Legacy on the PS5 and Xbox One in 2023. So a lot of variety there as well.
You were talking about Champions Return to Arms?
Return to Arms, yeah. What was the other one?
Yeah,
Sometimes
it
in
was
Norath?
just called Champions of Norath, yeah.
Okay, this was the second one. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Both games are extremely hard to find. And expensive.
And they were one of the games where people would come in like, hey, I want a game like Champions of Norath on the PS2. Can you suggest? And it's like, well, it's kind of one of a kind.
Yeah. Well, I recommend the Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance.
Dark Alliance, yeah. Dark Alliance 1 and 2.
Yeah, and then I'd be like, if you don't like that, if you want sci-fi, Gauntlet. Brotherhood of Steel was my other one, but it was like more sci-fi than the fantasy. But yeah, that was like what do we say on here? We say competition breeds innovation. That's why we get more of that game, because they want their version of it, right? So hopefully that doesn't die out in the near future. So I added Gotham City Imposters in this game because I was watching that a video from Laura. I can't remember what the last name was, but she was an ex-developer for Gears of War 2, and she's also she talks about like being part of the executive portion of game design and also the dev portion of game design. And she also worked on Gotham City Imposters, and this was a game where they really took emphasis on player feedback, almost like an early access type thing, right? Where they heavily asked the players in this game, like, what's fun, what's not fun, right? And I think it was atrocious at first, and as something along the documentary, she was like, if it wasn't for the players, then this game would have died, and then nobody would have played it. But we listened to their feedback fully.
It's really interesting you mentioned that, because again, there's a couple things I'm going to talk about in the next section that kind of like loop back into that a little bit.
Yeah, great.
But part of the work that I did, and I've mentioned this before, was I worked as part of a team for that was one of the people I got to work with. And I can only talk about it now just because I don't work there anymore. But I used to work as part of the team that would help find participants for research studies for Xbox, like Xbox Game Studies, Xbox Game Studios, and their satellite stuff. Feedback is definitely a part of this loop. Playtesting, Ubisoft does playtesting as well, but what she is bringing up is a good example of something that Baldur's Gate 3 was able to do and why people hold that in such high regard. That was in early access for a very long time, like years. That's the only reason that game ended up working out, because same thing, started very rough, ended up very different from where it started, but it was because of that player feedback. And I know there's a lot of people in chat who are kind of saying like, oh, they should always just listen to the players. That's not always the case.
No, not everything. And she also established that like if you listen to every feedback from each gamer, the game would be bad. Like
right.
that. Yeah,
But if you listen
that's
to
true.
commonalities, and
Yeah.
especially if you have the ability, that's one of the reasons I loved doing my previous job, was because of that fact. Like, they definitely went out of the way to try to do these kind of studies and get people in and get diverse viewpoints to find the best possible version of the game. And I think that's incredibly valuable stuff. It's something that Battlefield, just in the last day, I don't know if you saw the pre-alpha footage, they're bringing back Battlefield Labs, and that's that same thing. They're bringing in people early on for play testing to get a vibe for where the game should go next. And
Oh,
it's not always in the budget to do that. That's one thing I want to preface. It's they're not always able to do that so early in development cycle, because that's a lot of money to put down up at the front to get your game up to where it needs to be. Usually play testing's a little further along, maybe some, like alpha stuff, some really early build stuff with like preview candidates kind of things, or something like what happened with Dragon Age Veilguard. They brought in a lot of people later on kind of thing. So depending where that shows up in the process, that could lead to a very different end game kind of thing. So if they've got the money, Battlefield absolutely has the money. They've got 4 dev studios working on this next iteration, like from like international. They just like released this video in the last day. If you haven't seen it, the pre-alpha footage looks cool, but the fact that they're bringing back Battlefield Labs, which was in some previous titles, but the fact that they're trying to workshop these ideas early and really get a vibe from players, like, hey, what's actually fun in what we've built, and let's like iterate on that. Go back, get feedback, iterate again. That's smart, super smart. We'll see if it works out, but
It's funny that we were talking about this because I think when I was playing on my last stream, playing Doom on my channel, I was emphasizing, and I think I was talking with Fluffy or Andre, I can't remember, how I wasn't a fan of early access when it had first come out, like the idea of early access, right? Because I thought of it in a way that like you just get the game early and then they just patch it as they go. And I was like, you kind of get an unfinished product, and then you're paying like full price for it. And I think it's stupid to buy something that's not done yet, right? And then that was like the early times when I first heard of early access. But as time went, I was like, okay, actually, there's been a lot of great like experiences with early access. Plus, if the developer is very open to like, what's your feedback? What do you guys like? What do you don't like? You kind of get a game that's better suited for the buying customer, right? Because these are people that have invested in the game already. And so I think that, to me, it's changed my mind over time. Long story short, so
I will say there's been bad actors. There's a reason we felt
for
like
sure.
that. A lot of gamers did. A lot of people would get these early access games, pay full price, and then it was kind of like vaporware stuff.
Oh
You buy
yeah,
in, no updates. Or
yeah,
you buy
yeah.
in, you get a couple updates, and then 6 months later, nothing. You never get a final release. I mean, look at the crap that's been going on. And I say crap, but look at the stuff that's been going on with like Star Citizen. Like how much billions of dollars they sunk into that, and
Is
the
the
game
game ever
hasn't
coming out?
officially
Yeah,
released. Like, that to a lot of people were like, what are we doing? This is like super early access. It just
yeah.
keeps building and building and building ideas that don't come to fruition, kind of thing. So I could see why people felt that way, and I certainly felt that way too. I'm still kind of like iffy about early access, but if it's like a team I follow, a game I kind of believe in or really speaks to me,
Hmm.
I'm more willing nowadays, like you said, to take that leap, because I understand it's part of the process. It's all about their communication. Having done some community management stuff myself, I can look at that community management or that stuff they put out and kind of get a vibe for like the people behind the helm. And it's just like, man, this is a lot of like platitudes and buzzwords. I don't know if this is going to come to light of day, but
I mean,
well, it's like Jagos just mentioned. Hades is a great example of how to do early access right. Like the team over at Supergiant Games, they they released Hades early access, and from what I saw of it, it was already a solid product. I didn't wind up picking up the game until like later into the early access period, like just before it hit 1.0. But even then, when 1.0 hit, and they just kept working on it and iterating on that, and building it not just into a better product, but into a more complete product. And by the time development was done with it, by the time they were done fully developing Hades, they had pretty much built up that track record, that goodwill, because of communication and because of the quality of the product.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all boils down to that. Like Jacobs was saying, like Wayfinder did a good job, and Warframe was built upon that, right? You kind of get the vibe if they care or not. And like what Nick was saying, there are bad actors that just want your money, right? Like Star Citizen. Like, what if people are giving them money left and right? Why would they finish the game? Leave it in early access, right? And so they start complaining. That's usually how it works. Unfortunately for the bad actors. All right, let's finish it up here with the last day on February 8th, Shadow of Rome. I actually talked about this on stream a few times, if anybody knew what Shadow of Rome was, because it was developed by Capcom in this weird time back in 2005. So, Chad, if you know or played Shadow of Rome, props to you. This was one of the weird ones. Capcom was kind of trying different things during this time. And we landed with Shadow of Rome with Agrippa, your main character here. Yes, I know the main character's name. Very obscure game. This was interesting because this was a type of game where you played as not what's his face, not Gladiator Man from the movie. I forgot his
or
Maximus.
Yeah, or what's the actor's name? I can't remember.
Oh, Russell Crowe.
Yeah, you don't play Russell. You play Russell Crowe or like the guy from Heath Ledger from Knight's Tale, because that was the other character you played, and their gameplays were different. Like Agrippa was, of course, the action one. He fought everybody in the arena, and then as the story flips, you play as the other guy, which sneaks around and solves puzzles and takes down guards. So it was a really strange game, and I'd love to play it again, but there's no way this game's getting a re-release. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way to play it on the PS2, because I do have a copy of this somewhere. Other games that came out on this weird year, or this day: Mario Party on the N64 in 1999. That's where it all started, and probably lost all your friends during that day. NBA Street V3 on the PS2, GameCube, Xbox in 2005. Tekken's Nina Williams in Death by Degrees. That's another weird game on the PS2 in 2005. 2005 was just weird game year. All right. The King of Fighters 02 and 03 on the PS2 in 2005. We got a bundle there. You Don't Know Jack on the 360 and the DS in 2011. How does that work on the DS? That's interesting.
Oh man, it was about like trivia games. That game coming back, because I mean, You Don't Know Jack was like early on, like PlayStation and stuff.
Yeah.
Those kind of like early games, and then this got re-released around that time of 360, and like it created all this like groundswell for those kind of games again, and that's what kind of kicked off the Jackbox craze, was like because bringing back You Don't Know Jack.
Yeah, well, I'm saying on the DS, like, is there a voice on that?
Like, yeah, there's okay on that.
Okay, no, like I don't know. I feel like there's hardware limitations, but whatever. Dynasty Warriors 9 on the PS4 in 2018 in Japan. God Eater 3 on the PC and PS4 in 2019, and the ever popular Helldivers 2 was released on PC and PS5 in 2024 last year. So pretty good day. I mean, King of Fighters 0203. Why is that bundled? Do you know a reason for that, Ace?
I don't know the reason why it was bundled, but I did actually, I think I know why it was bundled, because beforehand, maybe like I want to say 5 or 6 months beforehand, they actually bundled the King of Fighters 2000 and 2001. So it was like the second King of Fighters bundle.
Yep. Oh, I got right here.
There you go. You got the 02 and 03. But yeah, they had previously bundled 2000 and 2001 for the PS2.
So it looks like it has characters from 99 as well. So it's 99, 2000, and 2001 in the whole package.
Andre said you don't get many Greek games from Japanese devs. That's true. Trying to think. No, it's fun. I thought, I knew I had a copy of it somewhere. That's why I was like, pretty sure my Shadow of Rome is buried somewhere, somewhere in this pile. But let's see the other game. I don't think I have a copy of this, but the Death by Degrees game was very interesting because I'd never seen a Tekken character or like a character from a fighting game get their own video game before. Yeah. So that was kind of wild, And if you saw the thumbnail for tonight's video, that was on there as well.
Well, I mean, Mortal Kombat mythologies and
that's true.
Kombat Special Forces.
That's true. Yeah. Shaolin monks. Yeah, you're right. All right, Ace. Why is Dynasty Warriors trash? 9 trash.
Ugh.
Real quick.
Oh, a whole lot of good ideas with poor execution and the usual Koei Tecmo monetization.
Oh, costumes, weapons. I'm assuming.
Yep.
I think that's where it kills it. Hey, you know what? And that's the thing. We talked about how you could unlock the 4th weapon in those old games. Why didn't they do it this time? That's all I'm saying.
I don't know what they did. It's like I don't know what they were trying to do for 9, but also speaking of unlocking, ultimate weapons, you unlock Ultimate Warrior difficulty in Dynasty Warriors Origins, and that's where you go to complete challenges to get those weapons.
In Origins. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. Well, you know what? I agree because
Yeah, that makes sense.
we found it, folks. That is we're gonna be pressing that button a lot. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, that was your this week in video game history. A lot of content that day. So all right, Nick, give us the lowdown on what's going down in the industry while I boot up your soundtrack.
Depending on how much news we got to discuss, I can hold off on the tech till next week because
I was going to say I can speed through the news as well. Like, there's not a ton. There's a couple big things and a couple discussion things I want to bring up because last week we had some good discussions and chat jumped in and that was a lot of fun. So I figured we'd lead with that as well. Mm-hmm. But I'm waiting for that music to go. There you go. All right, same as usual. I like to start with some bite-sized content, just quick little notes to get out there, some cool stuff that would happen in the industry or some things that we've talked about previously, kind of cool to loop back on. First and foremost, we're kind of talking about Capcom earlier, folks. Hopefully you two didn't look at the link, but Capcom just released a list of their top 10 best-selling video game series. Can you guess what some of those video game series are, you Capcom freaks?
Best video game series? I mean,
yes, their best-selling series.
Best-selling series: Street Fighter, Monster Hunter, Mega Man.
So there's 3 of them. Street Fighter, Monster Hunter. The last one.
And what was the last one? Mega Man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think
it's on the list.
I don't think it's Mega Man, but it's on the list. There's 10 of them. You said
10. This is their top 10. Just seeing if you guys can guess what their top 10s are.
Top 10. Resident Evil. There you go. That's a good one. That's my 3.
All right. Nope, good guesses. Number 1 is Resident Evil.
Oh,
for that series. A lot of games came out for them, but Capcom, that's their number 1 selling series for them. 167 million units across all of it. Number 2, Monster Hunter. Number 3, Street Fighter. Number 4, Mega Man. So, Ace, you're guessing right up there at the top. 5, Devil May Cry. 6, Dead Rising. 7, Dragon's Dogma. 8, Ace Attorney. 9, Marvel vs. Capcom. And number 10 is Onimusha.
So they literally took their top 10 and go, we're going to make games out of the top 10 again.
Hey, we're talking about Risk, man, and what it costs to get a game.
Mega Man. They haven't done with Mega Man yet.
Well, I mean, they, Capcom just recently, literally earlier today, had their most recent showcase.
Yeah.
And not only did they show off more stuff from Monster Hunter Wilds, but there was also the announcement that Onimusha 2 is going to be coming back.
Like on a remaster?
Yep.
Yeah.
How'd they get permission from that guy, man? Because that guy's dead.
Hey, and just remember, this is just their best-selling series. So some of the people in the chat bringing up some very good titles. Those might have been individually very good, popular titles for them.
Man, Shadow
across all of it.
Shadow Rome should have been in there.
Shadow Rome. See, I thought you would have guessed. Well, I appreciate that. All right, so we have been talking about some Xbox games ending up on PlayStation. We talked a little bit about what Xbox is doing and, Xbox everywhere kind of thing, almost like Majima everywhere. It's just going to pop up screaming at you, Xbox on your other systems.
I love
so
it.
we just got word that Age of Mythology Retold and Age of Empire 2 Definitive are coming to PlayStation 5. That's been confirmed. And this is right on the back of Forza Horizon 5 is coming out on PlayStation 5.
That I saw, yeah, for sure.
So getting a couple more titles, we'll see how many more come out. There was a rumor, and again, rumors always take it as a grain of salt, but there's a rumor that we could potentially see a Gears of War HD trilogy, which we've been asking for a very long time, may be coming out for PlayStation as well. So that hasn't been officially announced, but it sounds like some of those are starting to get hit. Like we're going to get that release, and it will be multi-platform, day one release for all of them, and it will include PlayStation. So we'll see if that happens. But that's just on the back of what we've talked about the last couple times.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. You guys are some DBZ fans, aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think of Sparking Zero? It was all right.
I think it sold better than Fighter Z because it's more accessible to a lot of people.
So I'm glad you said that. It actually just passed a milestone. It just sold over 5 million copies worldwide.
I believe it.
So Sparking Zero is now the fastest selling Dragon Ball game on consoles.
Yeah.
Also, check this out. I have the link in there for later. We can send it up. But a rare Nintendo GameCube prototype from Space World 2000 went on sale and sold for $100K.
What?
Yeah. Best thing about that thing, it doesn't play games.
Oh my god.
Well, if it's the only one, that's a great thing. That's a great bragging right.
Yeah. It's got a little like window too where you can see the disc. It's crazy. But
cool.
yeah, it was like a prototype and that thing sold for $100,000.
Belongs in a museum.
Yeah. All right, old man. Sony's State of Play is rumored to be happening next week. Multiple outlets are saying that, so keep an eye out. We're going to get the State of Play. We'll see what they have to show us. No Man's Sky, that thing's still around. That thing is still releasing content. Who would have thought?
For real.
Worlds Part 2 update will have a new solar system class, new planets, and a new story. Quote, we added billions of new star systems and trillions of new planets to the universe. So if you thought that game was too big to begin with and you didn't have enough time to get through it, new update, still going strong, and massive amount of content. So
one game backlog.
Yeah, it really is. I remember getting into No Man's Sky after some of the updates when it because I bought it at launch because I was so sold on the original video.
Yeah.
And that was one of those examples we talked about, like bait and switch, like what we saw in marketing and what we got as a final product. What is this? Hello Games sticking with it. It's kind of been one of those Cinderella stories of just coming back from the brink kind of thing. Like they brought it back, they got us back. The fact that they're still making content for this game while they're doing other projects, and it's like massive stuff, not just this amount of planets and like star systems, but a story as well. Like a new story is built in this thing. That's just crazy. I don't know. Just some cool bite-sized content for you guys. All right, first article for tonight. I will be a little bit quick with this because we've talked about it a lot, but BioWare downsizing. So we have found out, and I've talked a couple times now. I think there was a couple people in chat last week who were asking me my personal opinion on Veilguard because I'm a big Dragon Age fan. I've made that clear. EA has, as we've heard now, they aimed for roughly about 3 million copies sales. That's what their sales goal was for that.
So crazy.
Which is crazy. That was their goal for something like this that had this such like big build up behind it. Big, Dragon Age is a pretty big franchise for them.
And how much money they put into it.
Right. What's that?
And also how much money they put into it, I'm assuming.
Right. So it actually didn't sell that. Spoiler alert, from what we've told. They said it, quote unquote, engaged 1.5 million. I don't know if that means like copies sold, but roughly 50% of their sales goal for Veilguard.
Yeah.
So the first article was just talking about from Insider Gaming. BioWare moved some employees to other projects while developing Mass Effect 5. So we've heard now that Mass Effect 5 is in pre-production. So super early on. There is now less than 100 people working at BioWare. And I'm a huge BioWare fan. Again, we've talked about that a couple times. But at its height, there were about 200 people working on Dragon Age, so about half the staff is there now. And someone in chat said, I think Jagos pointed out that we did find out from a couple different outlets that the entire writing team has been let go, or at least no longer works at BioWare. And my own personal feelings aside, the one thing that was consistently kind of hit on as like a big knock against Veilguard was its writing. It's like across the board, no matter how you felt about it. I've said multiple times, it wasn't a Dragon Age game. It didn't feel like a Dragon Age game. It wasn't a bad game. It just wasn't Dragon Age. But the writing was something I felt was lackluster as well. The reason we played those games are for the stories, the characters, and the writing. Didn't happen in this game. So just kind of a crazy thing to think that they're gone. Team members were moved to other places, but then we started learning there's also been a lot of layoffs as well. Pretty crazy. Multiple editors, narrative designer and lead writer, producers, senior systems engineers, all confirmed to have exited BioWare in the wake of Veilguard leaving. So I was wondering if you guys, with this in mind, has there been any other time in like the gaming industry where a team has had this many, I won't say flops, but this many disappointments in a row and are still able to work on their next game? Like lately, we've heard of things like Concord coming out and then the team's axed, and that's the one game they were doing kind of thing.
Right.
And granted, that was a massive amount of money. We don't know the numbers behind Veilguard. It's a lot, spoiler alert, but we don't know what. But isn't that pretty crazy for the industry? They're getting this much leeway still. I want them to have that. I love BioWare games, but what do you two think about that?
Well, if I'm gonna go ahead.
I feel like I get the feeling that Jagos is right when he says that Mass Effect 5 is basically going to be BioWare's Final Fantasy.
Kind of has to be.
Well, we were also saying that about Dragon Age. This needed to go well for them to do Mass Effect. So kudos to EA. I'll say that on this one. The fact that they're still getting to move forward with Mass Effect 5, because I really do want that. I think they understand that people want that.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, and just as a preface with this, James, I'm sending you an image if you want to share it as I'm talking about this. But Mark Dara, one of the original people who worked at BioWare, he was a programmer and then an executive producer. He worked there from 97 to 2021, kind of one of the big original veterans that everyone's talking about. He is doing his own YouTube stuff right now and doing podcasts. He actually did a YouTube video that explained, from his understanding and with an entire backlog, he shows this picture that I sent James, if he can pop it up. But it explains how BioWare used to be structured and how this could end up being actually a really good thing. The fact that they've kind of like downsized so much and gone hyper focused on this, because for the first time in pretty much their entire history, this is going to be, sorry if it's a bad format, but this is the first time in like their history that they had like one game to focus on. So it's a super interesting look behind the curtain. I'll toss the YouTube link in chat. But if you look at that entire table, you can see they had teams on Mass Effect, on Dragon Age, on Jade Empire, also on Andromeda, on SWTOR. Like the team was constantly back and forth. Thank you for setting that up. Again, Mark Dara, really cool to get his like feedback on the back of that. But just seeing how this team was always kind of fragmented and having to shift from one side to the other. So like when Anthem was having issues and needed to be shipped, they grabbed people from other teams to get it shipped, right? Pretty common, that BioWare magic, having to crunch to get that out. So we're at this final phase right now where, because Veilguard went the way it went and they've had to downsize and people have left or have been let go or shifted elsewhere, we're now down to finally like one project, and it is the make or break. So just kind of a really cool thing to see. And like I said, I just wanted to call that out because it is always interesting to see behind the curtain from someone who's actually there. But watch that in your free time. Really cool thing. Just on the back of this article coming out, Insider Gaming also spoke to like current employees, and they're concerned about more layoffs coming as well. So we'll see what happens. But along with that, one thing to point out, one that EA is doing with BioWare, while this is happening, an internal evaluation is being done to see where things can be improved with the dev moving forward. So this is like ripped down to the studs, going to see whatever they can do to get this dev back on track. And Mark Dare, for his part, has said this might be the only time they've had this kind of focus in its history, and it may be exactly what they need. So yeah, just a weird trend that the studio is getting another chance after 3 big disappointments.
I mean, if we're looking at just the layout of this really rocking diagram, I mean, if we're just looking at the layout, it looks like literally the only time they had like that laser focus on just one project was literally back at the start of BioWare, back in '85 with Shattered Steel.
Right. At MDK, and then they were doing Baldur's Gate, and they had another team doing that. Again, watch his video. He gives a much better breakdown of all of it. This is just like a snapshot from it. But one thing I thought you two would find interesting, because we talked to either, if you look at that far right column, Jade Empire 2 was in development.
Oh, no!
Yeah, and it's Mass Effect 1's fault.
It's not though. It's not though. Look at that. That got canceled.
Dragon
and they
Age
pulled,
Origins.
then they pulled people.
No, that's okay. Dragon Age is great.
Yeah. Well,
No,
Dragon Age Origins and Mass Effect 2. I think it was Mass Effect 2 more than anything that
I
pulled all
mean,
those resources
it's
to get that
FLOTOR.
out.
FLOTOR won it. That's what it was.
Jade, we could have had a Jade Empire too, though.
So again, watch this video. Really cool. It gives you that kind of little like more like seasoning to understand like behind the scenes how they were pulled in so many directions. They had to build up, they had to expand, and then they had to refocus as things went back down as they got leaner. So yeah, again, we're at the very bottom now. We're at the end of this train. They're on one thing. They've let go of the team that was considered the weakest part of their most recent game. It did not sell well. People are fearful. We'll see, what happens out of it. Maybe something positive can come out of it. But the fact that, this has all happened, pretty crazy. All right. Second article. This one is a rumor. Again, grain of salt, but I thought it'd be a fun discussion point. So there's potentially a new 2D Metroid in the works. That has been leaked. Ace, I see your eyes getting super wide there.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. So again, always take it as a grain of salt, but there could be a new Metroid 2 game coming down the pipeline. This is one that I think it was a Spanish content creator and it was translated, so link is in Twitch chat. But super interesting to hear that there could be another 2D Metroid. And this is right on the back of some other stuff that we'd seen recently. How about Ninja Gaiden Ragebound? That look of that 2D, that old school style, right, coming back. Yep. And Metroid is super popular. The big problem with this, and what the article kind of calls it out as well, is the fact that we're expecting Metroid Prime 4 this year. You think we're really getting that and a new 2D Metroid? Like, that can seem sus. I don't know if they do that in the same year, cannibalize. They are a little bit of a different crowd, but it's still kind of a thing where it makes you want to think a little bit. What other titles would you like to have a new 2D update?
Hey, to be fair, we're getting a whole lot of Ninja Gaiden this year.
It's a theme. Well, I mean,
it is a theme.
They finally. It looks like if they're following Tecmo's release process, they did a remaster, a 2D, and then a sequel to the game that's very popular. So if Metroid does the same thing, I wouldn't be surprised. I think that's smart. It builds up the anticipation for that big title.
Right. So the team that is potentially working on it is the ones who released, I think it was Metroid Prime Dread, if I remember the title right. It was that super popular 2D release.
Action.
Yeah. So I mean, that'd be really cool. But think about some of those other games that are kind of in that could use that kind of update, that new 2D kind of vibe. You guys would kind of like. I mean, talk about Strider had a re-release, and I think it was 2014. But imagine if they could revitalize that with a new 2D update, not just kind of like a Xbox Live Arcade kind of launch.
Yeah,
something that's more like the original Genesis kind of feel, that fast-paced swordplay, acrobatics, like Cyber Ninja stuff. That could be pretty cool. How about Shadow Complex or Demon's Crest? Anyone? Capcom?
Oh no! Don't play with my emotions like that, man. Don't play with my.
I think a couple people called it out in chat earlier with Sega, but how about Vector Man? How about an update to that? Or maybe some throwbacks. How about Blackthorn, James? Would you like a 2D update, like a new style Blackthorn?
Only if Jim Lee does the art.
No. You mentioned Jim Lee doing the art. We need a 2D update to Comic Zone.
It is coming out already. Comic World.
Oh yeah, that's right. Never mind.
I mean, you still nailed it though. Congrats, Ace, on nailing that down.
No, here's one. Final fight in the system of River City.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun.
That'd be cool.
I mean, think about they did the TMNT collection that came out recently as well. That was a really fun update to that. And then Shredder's Revenge, that kind of old school throwback but new style. So how many other titles or series could use that as well? So if we get a new 2D Metroid and it's as good as those, I mean, look at how good a lot of those new pixel Metroidvania games came out that did really well, like Bloodstained, for example. If you get that kind of quality out of these other teams, kind of revisiting old styles, but what if it was in those game series that are super popular and had those heydays, or there's been a big gap in their game pasts? That'd be pretty cool. We'll see if that happens. Very last one for today, because again, I am speed running through these. The last one is something that's near and dear to my heart. Sleeping Dogs movie. It's confirmed again. So we've known for a little bit now that Donnie Yen was attached to a Sleeping Dogs movie. And then we found out recently from Donnie Yen, because he said publicly that it wasn't happening, it was canceled. And that broke my heart. After so many years of just wondering what was going to happen, Sleeping Dogs is one of my favorite underrated games. I think one of those ones that kind of became a cult hit more than anything, because it didn't sell super well. It was like a GTA alternative, but it was like, it was so good, especially after watching a lot of like Hong Kong cinema and watching games like Hard Boiled and stuff. Like, I loved Sleeping Dogs. So we actually just found out that despite the sad news of Johnny Yen not being attached, it's not happening. It sounds like it is happening now. It is confirmed to be in production with Simu Liu at the helm.
Simu.
Yeah. So he is at the helm. He is really right now calling out for it. He wants it to be a thing because of a very specific thing that's called out in this article. Not only does he want the movie to be made, he wants it to spawn a sequel to the game that never got one.
Okay, who would be developing it?
The game?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'd have to think on that. There's a lot for it. So Squeenix still owns the rights to Sleeping Dogs, by the way. That was not sold to Embracer as part of that deal. So Squeenix still owns the rights. So it would probably be development studio that they licensed it out to. I can't imagine Squeenix making it. Who was that? Was that United Front that made that? I don't. Oh wait, no, it wasn't United Front.
I think it was actually. It had that really cool logo.
Yeah.
Propaganda logo. Yeah.
Yeah, the propaganda logo.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, Story Kitchen is the team behind the movie. So they're actually known for, I think they were 2022. They were founded by people who were specifically looking to make multimedia, like movies of gaming franchises. So this is not like your Far Cries or your Silent Hills or your Uable like massacres. This is the team that has done Sonic the Hedgehog, Tomb Raider, and Streets of Rage movies or content based on those things. So you have a really good team behind it. You got a cheerleader in Simu Liu. And so sounds like we're finally getting the Sleeping Dogs game we were kind of always promised. So with that in mind, question for you two. Are there any other games that deserve a good movie adaptation? And if you can't think of one, that's fine. Chat, feel free to toss in your ideas. But follow up for that one. Do you think that a good Sleeping Dogs movie will help get the sequel like Simu wants?
I think so. Like if Sleeping Dogs does well, I think it could actually help get that.
I'm seeing some no's from James, and I the reason I wanted to ask that question because has it been too long? Do they have the right team? Is the time not right? Yeah. GTA 6 coming down the line.
There is that.
James, shaking your head no. What do you think?
No, to answer your question is the industry itself is built on trends and like what's hot, what's popular for Hollywood, right? For SEMA to take this package, this deal and this project on, he'd have to pitch it really well to like why would people want to come see this? Because that era is kind of over, right? So that's the tough one. And there's the stigma of like video games are gaming to movies and movies to video games, right? So we all know he's fighting an uphill battle on that. And everybody in this chat would love a Sleeping Dogs 2, but does that reflect outside of this conversation? Like, does the public want that? I'm gonna say no. Just because one, they're gonna be like, what's Sleeping Dogs 1, right? There's a first one, and like it's just so out of its element, and it's like you said, it's far too long. It is definitely like a gamble, and definitely like it would be writing on like it would be more. It's a Simu movie versus a Sleeping Dogs movie, like how people would interpret this because they know him more from Shang-Chi than they know the game, right? So that's what they're fighting against with this one.
Sure, absolutely, and that's a very valid point. And Smoke Scorpio in chat saying, "Why see it when we played it?" I still love going back and playing that game every once in a while, and I love Donnie Yen, and while I love watching his movies, I would have loved to see a live action version. Lots of years have passed since then, so would I still? Who knows? But I'm still excited because, I would still like to watch it. But it's one of those things I agree that maybe the time has passed. Who knows? But at the same time, if they've got a team behind it and a passionate, cheerleader getting funding and putting it out there as like more of a passion project. If it does well, great. I can't imagine it being a full-fledged like big Hollywood production movie. But like I said, just kind of a cool discussion thing and food for thought for chat and for you guys. Are there other games that deserve a good movie adaptation? One that's more recent, because like you said, there's always that stigma. We generally until recently got bad adaptations. I think Sonic the Hedgehog 2 or 3. One of them is now like the second highest grossing like movie. Is it 3? Ace. It just passed Detective Pikachu as like the second highest grossing animated like adaptation ever. It's crazy.
First is Mario Bros.
And it's the highest grossing movie of Jim Carrey's career.
See what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So I mean, good adaptations could happen in the right, environment. So yeah, just kind of a cool thing. Those are the articles for the days, guys. I didn't want to take too much time, but it's a good food for thought. Some cool stuff happening around, some sad stuff as well. We'll see what happens with BioWare. But again,
like I'm more convinced they'll probably do a Sifu movie over a Sleeping Dogs movie, just because it's more recent, right? And also Secret Lair helped with that, and it's still possible, but that it is.
It depends how it's done. It depends how the writing's done, because I think the thing is that with Sleeping Dogs, to push back on that slightly, the reason it was so good was the story. And if the story's good, it will bring people. A little like Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. If it's a good story and it's done well, I think that'll speak beyond the label of what it is.
No. What I was saying is that the game probably wouldn't be made, but the movie would, because they would pitch it as a detective movie, not a martial arts movie, right? Because you can't do it as a martial arts movie with like a crime movie, Hong Kong cop movie, right? You have to say it's a detective story movie and it has martial arts in it, right? That's how you would pitch it to those producers, unfortunately. But a crime story sounds pretty good. Like if they said it's going to be like The Departed, but with Jackie Chan martial arts, like they'd be like, oh, that sounds all right, But if they said it the other way, like, oh, it's going to be a martial arts movie, but but it's about a policeman. It's like that doesn't sound.
Yeah, no, I don't think that would be the case.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
even looking at the story, it was one like martial arts were like a part of his character. It wasn't the defining thing, because it played more like GTA. It was that undercover cop, seedy underbelly kind of thing, trying to figure out what's right or what's wrong. It was a pretty typical, like if you look at it at a base, it's a pretty basic story from what we get there, but where it was set, how you interacted with it, for the time, it was great. So
that's my question. Who would take? Oh, Simu would direct it, I'm assuming, because he wants to take it, right?
He would at least probably be executive producer. I don't know who would end up doing that. Again, the people behind our story kitchen, the ones that did, Sonic, Tomb Raider, Streets of Rage. So they might have a different studio. They might already have a director for that kind of stuff. Simu could just be the star producer.
Yeah. Also, a movie that would be great if they released it, a video game to movie. I would say Streets of Rage would be a fun movie if it was like set in the 80s, like modern day
retro style.
Yeah, it'd be so fun. It would just be the Warriors, pretty much.
Yeah.
In their own style. That'd be kind of cool. Well, awesome.
You guys, thanks for hearing me out, hearing me talk so much.
Yeah. Ace, I mean, do you still want to do the tech? We got time.
Nah.
Or do you need to take care of that fire alarm?
Well, that too, but I'd rather not try and squeeze literally 5 minutes, try and squeeze what I've got into 5 minutes. So if anything, let's have ourselves a little field day from the tech, and we'll get back to it next week.
Yeah, give the people what they want a week from now. It's like, hey, come back.
rain check on the tech. Rain check on the tech. All right. Well, we're gonna skip that, and we're gonna go right into now playing. So if you guys follow me, you guys already know I'm playing Doom. I'm pretty sure I have 3 levels left, and it's a blast. And like I said on my stream, it's a video game. I love every minute of it, every second of it, every shot I take, every breath I make. The demons are watching me. That's exactly what it is. No, it was just like I'm having a good time. It honestly feels like I'm playing a video game. Quite the departure of like narrative driven games that there's a game within the story, like God of War, I think it's something like that. I feel like Doom is more video game, true to form or back to form, I guess, with still some engaging elements in the story, like without having to sacrifice and sit there with cutscenes. I love that my guy is a voiceless protagonist. I always enjoy voiceless protagonists. And he speaks for himself. Like the world interacts with your character, and he doesn't have to speak.
Look,
right?
man,
Like,
actions speak louder than words,
and this is an action game indeed. I am enjoying the amount of slaughter that the creative carnage that he creates when you're doing the glory kills with each demon. That's the fun part, is discovering how to do different ones. And the more I play it, the more I'm like, I think I'm the bad guy. in this game.
Are we the baddies?
Yeah, like, these guys are like stuck in this room with me. I'm not.
Okay, listen. I was looking at the key art up here, and I was like, okay, my one complaint about this. But then I took a closer look, and my complaint had been remedied. We do still have one of the demons looking back at us like,
yeah, right there. This is definitely an updated version of that key art. But yeah, it's and I've been like, usually when I play games that I enjoy, I jump onto YouTube and I do like lore videos to like kind of find out more. And turns find out, spoilers. This guy is actually the same guy from the original Doom, like Doom 1. And then like the other games like Eternal explain how you get to where you're at right now and how he fits into this universe, how your guy looks different because the helmet's different than the original one, right? And there's a different suit and everything. And I was watching a documentary, like you said, Nick, and it was a great documentary. The biggest challenge that they had was, how do we make a story out of this without distracting it from the gameplay? And I swear, like, they found it. They found like that sauce. They were like this perfect balance of like how we tell a story without sacrificing the fast intensity of the gameplay. And it's so weird because like I feel like I want to say there's nothing like it of recent games, right? But I know that's not true, but it just feels that way, And so this game, Doom 2016, chat, reinvigorated my like joy for video games. It's so weird to like say that, but like I thought it would be Final Fantasy remake, to kind of bring it back. No, Doom like brought it back. Like I am having fun. It's still a video game, but it's not like. It's just the story is not like just a throwaway. There's enough in there for you to be like, this is interesting, Yeah,
it's very much like that throwback to like the OG Doom. Like it didn't have like a in-your-face narrative, but it had enough to tie your like reasons for being kind of thing together from thing to thing. Like, oh, now there's demons, or now you're going here. That was it. And then while you're there, it's your playground.
Yeah. No, honestly, like that was pretty much my. Little Brain James back in the day was like, you're a Marine that was the only one left alive in the space station. When you wake up, everybody's dead except you, and you have to fight to survive. That was the story in the first Doom in my brain. Then I remember playing the shareware version where once you finish the first episode, you get teleported to hell, and that's where the game ends for you, unless you buy the full game, right? So that's where it ended for me because I never really finished it, and so it's like that was the story. Like, oh shit, I'm in hell. I'm assuming I'll fight my way out of hell or figure out a way out, right? So this kind of brought me back to that moment where where little James bought that shareware, and it's playing this this video game as video game. So highly recommend it. It's just a different experience in my opinion. And it's one of those games where instead of like me talking about it, I urge you to just, pop it in, play, and even entertain Doom Eternal and Doom Dark Ages, which is coming out in May. So that's my 2 cents on that. What about you guys?
Oh, well, like I mentioned earlier, I finally hit credits on my first playthrough of Dynasty Warriors Origins. And because of that, now I'm actually jumping back on Freedom Wars Remastered to hopefully try and finish that before Monster Hunter Wilds comes out.
Oh, yeah? When's Wilds coming out?
The 28th.
This month?
Mm-hmm.
Damn,
hey, remember February's packed with freaking games, man. Like,
yeah.
I guess I blocked it out with how quickly January went. Like the first 3 weeks of January was like a speed run, and then the last week just like dragged on right around my birthday, just like dragged. We're
Yeah.
in February; it's already February 4th, and I'm looking at the calendar and releases. I'm like, I am not prepared for February, and I knew it was coming. Not prepared.
Yeah.
I am doing like because the thirst is real. I hopped back on Civ 6, and that's what I've been playing lately, just to get
Nice.
ready for 7. Just because I've been reading more and more about it, and how there's more and more like preview event stuff being done for 7, and they're all saying like, if you're a fan of Civ, you have to play this game. It is a departure, but it's still grounded in
Oh.
an experience. So I'm like, well, because of the way they're doing ages now. I don't know if you well, yeah. So apparently that is very good. That's like the thing that's come out of it. Like, oh, this has revolutionized how we interact with Civ. Like it's fresh, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
It
great. Now I
changes
want to play Civ again.
drastically.
So,
Well,
so I put 6 back in.
yeah, in 6, like I don't know, Chad, if you play Civ or not. Like depending on your civilization, depending on what age, that's where you excel the most, right? So that's why like you could be like trash in the first 3 ages, but once you get to the age that your civilization exceeds at, you could come back. So like that's why it's like it's kind of balanced in that weird way, right? Actually,
You know what's not balanced? The zombie outbreak mode in 6.
yeah,
I had never played that before. I
I
just started a playthrough of that. I'm like in year 2300, and like there's zombies everywhere.
Oh God,
Chad, if you
And
want to
they're
do a
so
lobby for Civ 6, let me know. We'll definitely get on that, and we'll host a game and do a short one, not a game that lasts 3
super
months.
fast speed. Super
Yeah,
fast.
super fast speed. You got to know what you're doing, otherwise we won't let you in the lobby. Stuff like that. Yeah, I'm excited for that too. I love Civ, and it's like to me it's like a SimCity game, but different, right? So
Yeah.
That's pretty great. And the only other 2 games I'm playing right now is Diablo 4, crushing out that battle pass as always. That's how they get my attention. I've finally accumulated enough platinum to like refund my battle pass for free each time. So that's kind of why I keep committing to that. And also Marvel Rivals. It's my pick up and go, turn off your brain, get salty game. So that's the game that I play right now. So
Smoking Scorpio in chat. That reignited my love for Civ was that 360 version, Civ Rev,
I
Civilization
love Civ
Revolution.
Rev.
I loved that game
I
so
love Civ
much. I
Rev.
played the hell out of that.
It's a different game too. It's like a lot of people don't realize it's so much different than the regular Civ game.
I felt it was way more approachable too.
Yes,
Just the fact that you didn't have to worry about like end game giant queues of things. Like it just flowed so much better.
streamlined. That's the word you're looking for. Yeah.
Super streamlined.
And I think that's why it was so fun to pick up and just play. I had it on PS3, right? And just turn off the brain, get home from work, turn off the brain, play some Civ, run some hours, and you're done. Like that, it was fun. Like what can I say? It was different. It wasn't complex. It was just really easy to get into. I know, Ace, you said you're playing First Ascendant. What else? Freedom Wars, right?
Yep, First Ascendant, Freedom Wars. Like Freedom Wars is the main one that I'm focusing on. Now,
Okay, yeah.
So I want to.
Yeah, you're getting on your hunting on pretty much, and then you're doing Fantasio, right?
Yeah, I'm still doing Metaphor, Civ 6, and then I started playing House Flipper 2.
Nice.
Because I just got this. I love organizing and cleaning, and my current job is I work for a local residential designer, and I'm kind of like doing some content creation for them.
Immersion.
Yeah. So one really cool thing that I found out is what House Flipper 2 does, just to go on this random tangent. So I apologize, chat. This one has a sandbox mode. So what I'm doing is I'm building some of our designed homes and putting them in the game. Because in the second one, you can actually unlock a color wheel that you couldn't do in the first one. You can just buy a paint color, put it up on the walls. This has full RGB, like type in a hex code kind of thing, and I can put any color I want. So I can pretty close build some of the houses that our designers have made and put into a video game and then walk around that space. So you might see some content pop up if you're a local Bellingham person as I'm doing that for them and putting that content stuff out, maybe some streaming down the line. Just kind of a cool thing. But someone who can't afford a home live vicariously through that right now. It's just kind of cool to see that a small team that did the first one did well enough. They made a second one, and the iteration is better. Everything they've done is just a better game. So just kind of cool. I can apply it to a real life situation and potentially help my team and my business through something I'm passionate about. So that's kind of cool.
You're literally gamifying your job, which is awesome.
Essentially. And one of the things when I first came on, because of my background, was potentially doing, because it's kind of still like the forefront. The thing about at least my experience with the construction industry is a lot of older people holding on to the old ways because that's how they worked, and a bunch of newer people trying to like push tech into this and like move it forward. There's that kind of push and pull. But there's discussions about including VR, so they can design these homes and then put you in a virtual space. You pop on your, Oculus, and then you can be in your new home that they've designed for you, so you can see ahead of time, like,
Yeah.
oh, this room is like this size, it's this way. I
I
don't
mean,
like the way this feels.
I've seen similar stuff like that done with people taking The Sims 4 and legit, building and crafting homes and spaces that they're actually planning on designing in real life.
Yeah, that's been the thing. We've done that a little bit too. I did that early on because actually one of the things we're doing is, and again, not to go on a wild tangent, but we're going to pit one of our designers against one of our salespeople. The salespeople are kind of gamers in their own right. We've played a lot of Sims, but we're going to face off against a designer who designs homes for a living, and just see who can make a better home, who can stay within budget. Again, kind of gamifying and kind of having fun with it, like novice versus expert kind of thing. But that's just an example of just like there's some fun stuff you can do with something like that in a different industry. Cool. It's just cool.
And you could also possibly start some not a revolution, but some kind of innovation where you're actually using gaming to better jobs in some way or form, like a creative approach to experience other services and stuff like that. That's very clever. It's awesome.
I think it's a good way to kind of, to be honest, the big thing is sell people on it. When you think of something like, small services, like we're selling to, like when we're being in a video game store and having to sell someone on like buying this console and buy a memory card with it, just like that little bit of upsell to make sure the company makes its money back. You're talking about homes, reno, even ADUs, like small homes, or like, mother-in-law suites kind of thing. That's a lot of money and a lot of future people plan for. So sticker shock is massive. It's a huge hurdle to get over. And having something like this where we can show them early on that the decisions are bearing fruit might be a better way to sell those services, or at least allow people to feel more comfortable with the decisions they made. Just kind of, again, just a cool thought kind of thing. Don't know where it's going to go yet, but we're kind of exploring that right now.
Yeah, and folks, that's why demos are important. Literally one of the reasons why demos are super
speaking
important.
of, you were talking about it earlier, so I'll see if I can find the link and I'll toss it up on Discord. But the entirety of game publications, I think it was Game Informer. Game Informer's entire backlog publication digital is available online now.
Oh, cool, like EGM.
Yeah, kind of like EGM, but they did it for Game Informer now too. So
wait,
you
can get it digitally, like you can just download it?
From what I saw, it was like the entirety of the library is available, so you can go back and look at old articles and old things. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that like you have to pay for that?
Not that I know of.
I'm all
I'll see
about
if I can find it.
I'm all about that. I want to put
a gaming Library of Congress.
I want like a USB drive of that. Like that's something that's history, like compact in one location. That's crazy. So no, that's awesome. Yeah, I would love to know more. And like I said last time, EGM is doing something like that, where they're doing like an archive and a compendium of all their archive of magazines, and that's super cool to have. I hope GamePro does it too. Maybe PlayStation will do PSM, but I don't think PSM had really any ties with Sony. I think they were just their own thing.
There was PlayStation Magazine, and then there was a Theory of official
one. Yeah, okay. Yeah, the fancy one, like Edge.
Yeah, there was PSM and then OPSM.
Yeah, PSM.
The Video Game History Foundation digital library includes every Game Informer magazine.
Yes, that's so cool.
Wow.
It just opened its digital library, which houses numerous classic video games magazine like Game Informer within its online archives.
Well, that's possibly something we can add to This Week in Gaming History.
Protect this site.
Grab an article from like a random date, like that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool.
All right, Chad. You got any more for us, Chad? You guys, sounds like y'all had some really good input tonight, and really enjoyed retro gaming. I heard a lot of requests on there, so that might be a thing for sure. I love it. I love seeing those ads. Like I said, it brings me joy just to bring stuff out like that back then, and in digital form, and learning that Game Informer is now available like in digital form that you can kind of peruse through at your time. That's a win for video gamers and old people like me. So awesome. All right. Well, with that said, it is running a little bit late, so we'll run to the end of the channel here with our outro, and let's see if I can change it up this time. Something more exciting. All right, guys. That is another episode of the Gaming Academy. Thank you all for tuning in and braving the cold with us. Hopefully tonight warmed you up a little bit with the great conversations we've had and also the great information that we've had. So we're always happy to provide that for you. If there's one thing we learned tonight, it's that gaming is more than just pressing buttons. It's a connection to history, creativity, and a reminder that every piece of gear, every story, and every character we encounter has a legacy behind it. Just like in games, life is all about equipping the right tools, adapting, and leveling up with each challenge. And I leave tonight with a quote from the great Solid Snake, once said, "A strong man doesn't need to read the future. He makes his own." Hopefully I made David Hayter proud. Keep learning, keep grinding, and remember, you're always just one respawn away from greatness. Stay warm, stay inspired, and as always, keep gaming, keep growing, and never, ever stop chasing those legendary moments. Until next time, this is the faculty at the Gaming Academy. Y'all have a good night. We appreciate you.
Class dismissed.
You're pretty good.